I know we've only known each other for 4 weeks and 3 days, but to me, it seems like 9 weeks and 5 days.
All right, all right, all right. All my passionate plant people and garden enthusiasts, welcome to Let's Get Growing Show, the Sunday edition of the Let's Get Growing Show here on the Urban Gardener channel. I'm Enoch. I'm your host today. We've got a great show for you ahead today. We are continuing on with a series of our gardening roundtables. We've been having so much fun doing these gardening roundtables here on the show on Sunday. We've had some great ones already the past few weeks. Today is just as good, even better. Today we've got with us Jessica and Nicole from Dream to Seed and Nicole Smith Gardening joining us for our gardening roundtable here in just a little bit on the show. We'll talk all about what we've been growing on this year and all of that. This has just been a fun way for us to get together with folks who've already been guests on our Saturday show. So, we can bring them back on for some nice, fun gardening conversations. We'll just have a really great discussion here a little bit about, again, what we've been growing on in this year and how our season went. It's, that time of year. It's fall where I'm really busy myself. I don't know about you all and everything, but I'm really busy myself out in my garden spaces, kind of cleaning things up. Plants are dying off now, finally starting to get some really, really cold nights. There's still some plants that are still surviving, still going. It hasn't gotten really completely cold enough to kill off everything in the garden, but for the most part, most things are dying off, especially trying to pull off all of the vines and everything that kind of got growing everywhere. Kind of really went with a let things grow wild kind of concept this last year, and had a lot of different volunteer cucumbers that got into my compost, which they got into the rest of the garden. I had them popping up all over the place. So I let a few of those plants go and they got really wild everywhere. So I've been out kind of pulling vines and cleaning things up and thinking about, what we're going to be doing and growing for this next year. Am I going to change anything up? Am I going to, rebuild some things that, because a lot of the stuff I have on my back patio, especially, are some like wooden built boxes that I've got for, being above ground on cement. And so some of those are in need of repair or maybe replacement. So those are some of the sort of things I'm kind of going through right now, thinking about what I'm going to be doing and growing for this next year. So yeah, lots and lots of stuff growing on here. I hope you've all been keeping up with what we've got growing on here on the show. And if you are here joining with us right now too, definitely hit that like button, hit the thumbs up, as well as the subscribe and the bell notification there. When you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell notification so you can be notified of all of our upcoming videos and live streams. I'm going to be doing videos again here real soon. I'm getting back in the swing of doing things with this newer version of my video editing software. And again, I'm not the smartest person when it comes to utilizing this sort of stuff, but I do really enjoy making the videos and putting together all of that. And there's a lot of things that we kind of missed out on out in the garden this last year. I know I do kind of like a little video clip each week to start the show out on Saturday. You get to kind of see some of the things that have been growing on, but without our weekly garden journals that we usually doing, there's a lot we've been missing out in the garden. So I don't want to do that this next year. So we're going to get started right away. Hopefully right at the beginning of the year, I'll get those garden journals back up and going, and we'll just kind of again go through a gardening season together and show you all what we got growing on and all of our different gardening spaces that we grow here. So that's kind of, again, what I said, I'm out there just thinking about all of that sort of stuff, what we're going to do, what I want to do, and putting together some videos and everything. So definitely make sure you're subscribing and clicking the notifications so you can see some of those videos as they come out here shortly. And definitely share with all your friends. Let all your garden friends out there know about the Let's Get Growing show here. We are here every Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And again, sometimes a couple of minutes late. Sorry, everybody. That's just kind of my life. That's just kind of the way things go for me. I'm always kind of just scrambling to make sure everything's all ready and trying to get things done last minute and everything. I got so many different things going on. But again, it's great to be here with all of you. Definitely love having you here for this fun gardening conversation with me each and every Saturday and Sunday. Also, a big, huge shout out to all of you who are watching us on the replay too. I know a lot of you watch the show on your own time throughout the week after the show. Even sometimes, you catching up with shows from weeks past and all of that. I really appreciate all of you who are watching us on the replay. Thank you so much for taking your time to catch up with us here on the Let's Get Growing show. And if you do have any questions, comments, any thoughts about the show, possible guests you might like to see, anything like that, or even if you just want to say hi, I love it. Even if you just want to say hello and let me know what you got growing on down in the comment section. And I love to hear from every one of you. So definitely do that. And if you are here joining with us live and you do have any questions or comments or anything like that, be sure to jump into the chat. Be sure to get into the discussion here. We've got a great discussion each and every Saturday and Sunday here on the show during the live chat and everything like that. Everybody has a great time just talking about all sorts of things, whether it's the gardening or other things going on. I always love watching and seeing kind of how the chat is going along as we're doing the show as well too. So if you do have any comments or questions, especially for me or our guests here a little bit later on in the discussion today, be sure to get into the chat there and put your questions in big, bold, capital letters. Make them all caps. That way I can see the questions from the conversation, and that way I'll be able to hopefully get your questions in and make sure that we're catching up with all of what you guys got going on there in the chat. So definitely do that. I'll be looking out for that as we get going through the show. Also, definitely check out all of our links down in the description. I've got links to our guests. This is something that we really like to make sure everybody's doing, is going and checking out our guests' links that we have in our description there. Go over to their social media, their YouTube channels, or whatever links that we've got down there for them, and go check out what they've put out recently, a post or a video or something like that. Go leave a comment, let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show, and definitely love it when you guys do that as well too. It's great to support those who spend their time coming here on the show and sharing with us all about their gardening and garden experiences and everything too. So again, show some love for the garden conversation here on the show, and go check out what they've got growing on, and definitely put some comments in for them. Excellent, everybody. Thank you so much for being here again today. I just enjoy this so much each and every weekend. I look forward to being able to just get to hang out here in my living room with all of you and get to enjoy a great, fun gardening conversation. So again, I really appreciate everybody taking their time today again to join with us here. And right off the bat here, let's say hi to Jay Dixon. Jay does facilitating for all of us. If you saw yesterday's show, yesterday we just basically did a conversation with all of you. In fact, Jay got on with us. We had Will from In the Soil, Big Will Dogs in the Soil channel. He jumped on with us and had a conversation. We had Julia with us, and yeah, it was really, really fun. Really great and great conversation yesterday on the show. But again, thanks, Jay, for getting into the conversation with us here and facilitating our chat. Everybody will notice that Jay will be putting in links in different prompts throughout the chat as we are going through the show here, and does a great job at making sure that everybody can kind of connect. If you do have a channel and you're here in the discussion, mention that you got a channel. Jay will throw out a link in for everybody to be able to check out your channel and all of that. So just keep an eye out for those links. Go check out some of that information that Jay's put in there in the comments for everybody there. Also, we got with us my man Adam from right down the road here in Central Point, Oregon. He's just right down the road. Great to have you here with us, Adam, and helping out with moderating the conversation as well too. Right on, right on. I see we got Janet here with us. Janet, so awesome to see you. We got Bettina. Great to have you here. Great to have you joining the conversation with all of us. And looks like we also have Bowtie Life in the Garden. David was on with us yesterday for a conversation. So if you want to meet David or Jay or Big Will Dog, who is always in our chat and conversation each and every weekend and everything. If you want to meet some of these viewers and folks that you get to see in the chat, yesterday was a great show for that. That was so much fun to get together with you guys and be able to hang out and really have a great fun conversation. In fact, we're going to get into something here real quick because I wanted to kind of have I thought of a couple of discussions, things I would just kind of go on a rant about and talk about. And we had so much fun in our conversations yesterday with everybody who joined with us that I didn't get a chance to talk about any of that stuff, except for we did kind of touch on one of them, which we've talked about throughout the year here on the show as well. But I'm going to talk about something that I've actually kind of teased about, I know, a few different times, but never really found the time to really have a just kind of a little rant about it and talk about just something that really gets me going right now when it comes to gardening and social media, so I'll talk about that here in just a minute. So we got Jersey Girl joining with us as well too. Hi there. Excellent. So great to see you here. Thanks for joining in on the chat and everything. It's great to see all of you here on the show. Hopefully if you could get all got a chance to check out some of our other shows we've had recently. We had last week on the show Ryan Schumacher from Baker Creek Heirloom Seed Company. Ryan does some pretty funny, really interesting, really kind of cool. Sometimes he's really tasting or trying out or doing some different things that they grow out at the Baker Creek farms there, that a lot of those crops and things that end up as seed selections in the Baker Creek Heirloom Seed catalog and the whole seed catalog. If everybody's familiar with that, that's actually coming out right now. I've been seeing people starting to get some of those first catalogs that are starting to come out. I've had a couple show up already in the mail too as well, so it is definitely seed catalog time and all of that. It was fun to have Ryan on and to talk all about how he got involved with Baker Creek many years ago, and how that's turned into the fun things that they're doing with their social media and creating these really kind of fun reels and videos and everything. We also last week got to meet Brooke Morgan from At What Brooke Grows. That was a really fun conversation. It was great to have her on the show. Really interesting, kind of comparison between both of us. We're very similar gardeners and all of that. You want to check out that conversation. We had a really fun discussion about different things that we've had growing on this year. And of course, too, here we are on the Sunday edition of Let's Get Growing. Every third Sunday of the month, we like to get together for a monthly gardening book club. This last book club, what we did is we did kind of a review, kind of a year in review of the 7 different books that we have featured this year on the Sunday edition book club. And we had some really great books this year so far. How to Become a Gardener by Ashley Thomas. All the President's Gardens from Marna McDowell. We had Cisco Morris on. Christy Wilhelmy's really fun novel, Garden Variety, How to Forage for Wild Foods Without Dying, Leave Your Troubles Behind. We had Tony O'Neill's Simplified Gardening as well too. So it was really fun to talk about all of those different books that we've featured so far this year. If you haven't been able to catch up or join us or be a part of our book club, now mind you, you don't have to have any of these books or really even get them. It's a great to get them and read along and to join with us each of these book clubs. But you know, it's a fun part of what we get to do here on the Let's Get Growing show is have all these really wonderful, awesome guests that we get to have here. And a lot of times these guests are authors of books. So what we've done is, bring these authors on for a featured book of the month that we're doing each month. And that's going to continue on into this next year as well too. We're going to finish up this year, December 15th. Again, that's the third Sunday of the month that we'll get together for the monthly book club. And this month's book, we are featuring Diane Meisler's Grow Your Soil. So we're reading Grow Your Soil this month. And again, too, it's going to be December 15th. And that's the third Sunday of the month. We'll have Diane Meisler on with us to talk all about this really awesome book, just really digging into the soil and talking about, the soil food web and just so far so good. I just got the book. I'm already starting to read into it. So again, get yourself a copy, or again, it's not required, but definitely join with us for the third Sunday of the month where we're featuring Diane Meisler's Grow Your Soil. And just really great, really fun to take part in this real great discussion. Again, too, also I have a co-host for that show, which is really fun, is my good friend Mark Roche Colbert gets to join with me and have a real fun discussion about all these really great books and all of that too. So you'll definitely want to check that out. And again, also too, note on usually throughout the year, we do a gardening answer all your questions with our good friend Master Gardener Gardner Scott from the Gardner Scott channel on the second Sunday of each month. We've done that throughout the year, except for the last month or two. Scott and our schedule just didn't line up, so we haven't had him on the show, but he's going to be back on, and again, continuing into the future on the second Sunday of the month. We're going to start that again too here for December. So again, that'll be the week before our book club, the second Sunday of December, and we'll have Gardner Scott back on again too. So those are always really fun discussions where you can just bring all of your gardening questions and get them answered by Gardner Scott, which is really great too, and a kind of a great lead into what is going to be what I'm going to a little discussion I've kind of wanted to have with everybody. And again, thank you all so much for joining with us here today. Thank you all so much for jumping in and joining in the conversation here in the chat as well too. But for years, and again too, I one of the things I love about having Gardner Scott on, he's a person that I really trust when it comes to his garden knowledge. And so, and again too, there's I can throw most anything at him, and he's got a good answer to whatever type of question. And if he doesn't have an answer, he can definitely help lead me in the right direction for whatever I need to know. And that's really important for a lot of gardeners. And one of the things in my gardening mission throughout the time of getting involved with making videos and participating in gardening on social media is to really kind of help people along so that they can kind of learn from maybe some of the mistakes and things that I've learned from, and to be able to maybe avoid some things maybe when it comes to getting growing with their very first gardens. And so helping new gardeners is a big part of what I enjoy about doing what I do as far as sharing information and that sort of thing. And so I've been for years involved in lots of different gardening groups whether they're local gardening groups that I have here locally, and some other bigger, larger gardening groups. And one of the things I've really always kind of advocated too as well, and we talk a lot about that here on the show, is that this basically what this show is kind of a community show where we're here as garden community with each other to kind of share in our passion for growing plants and growing our gardens, whether we grow food gardens, flower gardens, all sorts of different types, whatever you like, and whatever you're into when it comes to growing and gardening. That's kind of what we're about, is growing that community. But one of the things that has kind of gotten to me over the last several seasons now, to the point where, I used to always be like, find a good group, find good people and that sort of thing. And which is still kind of my point in all of this as well too, is finding and participating in good gardening community so that we can help each other grow, especially newer gardeners. One of the things that really gets to me, and what some of my advice now, and I've kind of shared this and talked about this a few different times over this season as well too, is I've just really come to the conclusion that when it comes to learning about or trying to find out information about how to do something in your garden, I no longer suggest to people to go out to find some garden groups and that sort of thing, and ask questions and find that sort of thing, especially when it comes to just basically social media and gardening groups, or in more so in the sense, I've got a really good local gardening group, and that's somewhere where I could kind of lean on some people as well too, because they're local, they're right here. It's not very big of a group. A lot of them are actually attached to and are a part of the local gardening extension that we have here, or local university extension master gardeners program, and that. So I could find a lot of that good information for myself in a local group, which is still a huge suggestion for me to anybody, especially newer gardeners out there. But when it gets to larger groups and you get into social media and you're in these really large gardening groups, I don't, and I used to get in there too and try to help sway the conversation in the right direction, and then found myself just basically a part of the noise anyways. And there's too many times anymore where I go onto these large gardening groups and see some people who are asking questions and find that they're just so much just information, a lot of information that isn't even correct. A lot of people who are, passing information about gardening and growing and tips and ideas and thoughts that they have on things that aren't really based on anything more than just things that maybe they feel. I'm not sure sometimes when I'm reading some of the things that I'm reading from folks. And so that can really lead people in wrong directions anymore too. This is where I really came to the conclusion though too, is what I started finding with some of these even larger groups was that some of these questions that were being put up in the group weren't from someone originally actually wondering or thinking about that question. There are just certain things that get people going, and get people talking and get people arguing or discussing in different ways, different thoughts of things and all of that. Every year you'll just start seeing it in some of these groups. Wait till I say every year, wait till the discussion on blossom end rot starts, or some of these other things. And what you'll notice is that they'll start getting these questions popping up a lot of the times. And what I started coming to figuring out as well is that that's all on purpose. That just to get that kind of discussion going, to get people talking about and having these arguments with each other about how to grow or to do something or to get some sort of gardening advice. And then that just becomes a real kind of cesspool of just negativity and distraction from actually being able to learn about growing and gardening. So, that's kind of something I've been wanting to, and why I wanted to kind of talk about that. I was going to again, like I said, mention this and talk about this yesterday during our more open discussion. And usually today on the Sunday show, we're again, we have our good friend Mark Roche Colbert, who does in the garden for us. But I thought I'd take the time today to just kind of talk about that a little bit and express some of kind of my thoughts about that. I think when it comes to gardening community and all that, I love to show and highlight all these amazing gardeners that are out there doing things and sharing their experiences and all of that. It's good to find people that you can trust who are out there sharing and doing things. And I think you can find a lot of that through some of these great gardeners like Gardener Scott, as I was leading into this, who's just a wealth of just great gardening information and all of that. You can come and, and you come find out on the second Sunday of the month, like I said, and get some good answers to questions and all of that. But when it comes to going out into these large gardening groups, I just don't want to I just don't mess with them anymore. And I don't suggest, and it's really, again, like I said, it's really kind of sad though in the long run, because there are going to be a lot of gardeners who are new to gardening, new to growing, who are going to, get involved and hear and get some of that information out there. But again, like I said, I also came to the conclusion that all I was doing by trying to get and wade into those waters to see if I can't lead some of these folks away from some of that sort of stuff, as all I was doing was becoming just a part of the noise anyways, and again, it's just kind of sad to see that's a part of the things that we've got to deal with out there. The gardening community, as I mentioned to everybody here all the time on this show, is just the most amazing community. That so many awesome people doing awesome things when it comes to gardening. We highlight so many here on the show. We are so fortunate each Saturday and Sunday to be able to hang out with really amazing gardeners here on the show and all of that. But when you get into social media, even in gardening, you can find all of what you can find out there in all these other areas of it as well too. Is that you can find some really bad misinformation, and it's really kind of sad when it comes to some gardeners who are trying to find a way to grow and get involved with this just amazing, I don't know if it, whether you consider it a hobby or a lifestyle or whatever, gardening is just an amazing thing. It's changed my life in so many different ways. I've had so many guests here we've had on the show that it's changed their life in so many different ways, that I want people to have the opportunity to be able to find that for themselves as well too. So I just hope that maybe in some way, this only goes out so far, but in some way maybe we start also, maybe as gardeners in our gardening community at large too, can start maybe driving people away from some of these larger places where things and the noise just gets a little too loud when it comes to getting good gardening information. And again too, it's just also a part of the way things are, so we got to live with it one way or another. But yeah, again too, that's kind of my rant, and I'm just rambling at this point now, but is that it's just kind of a bummer that we can't we can't have anything nice, I don't know, as they would say, but no, there are, and that's kind of what I was also trying to mention as well too. There are still a lot of great groups. I really, again too, out of all of that, if you're going to be involved with a gardening group, find a good community, find good people locally, even, which is really even better. Find a good local gardening group, especially ones that and can see has a lot of members who are a part of possible master gardener programs and things like that you have locally as well too, so that that you're getting some you're getting the best information, or at least the best start in getting information that you need and all of that. And then avoid all of these larger, noisier, larger gardening groups. I mean, they're kind of appealing. There's a lot of people in them, but that's not where you're going to really find your best gardening information. And, so steer clear and watch out for all of that. So that's my garden rant for today. Again, thank you all so much for joining with us here on the show. Let's see here. I see we got Rob's Allotment Gardening here joining with us from the UK. And also I see Rick here. Rick's joined into the conversation. He's joining us from the future in Australia. Thanks, Rick, for jumping in, getting up early and joining us here on the show. And let's see here. Oh yeah, even Rick was saying in larger groups there's many stories at once, but you have a guide that motion on the topic, but you need to pull people into the conversation. Yeah, well, like I said, it's just too much sometimes, and it's hard to kind of differentiate between what's the best information or not the best information, because everybody's in there arguing about how they know better than anyone else when it comes to certain things, and then that becomes just too much noise for trying to figure out what is the best solutions to the things that people are trying to figure out in their garden, or at least in some cases have a better understanding of what it is that's going on in their garden, because it can be confusing to new gardeners. I remember when I was new to gardening, there was just so many things I just didn't understand. I couldn't really wrap my mind around and all of that. And so it took me getting involved in the gardening community and other places and growing my garden through different seasons and all of that, to learn, how to do better in my garden and go through some of that stuff. And again, like I kind of started with too, is that those of us who do have experience, that's why you see so many people, so many of these awesome people who share their gardening experiences out there on social media. We got two of them coming up here in just a minute, who, take their time to be out there and do that, to share their experience. And there's so many awesome people out there doing that. And, so it's great to be, and get in and be a part of the community and share your experiences with others, so that hopefully you're kind of guiding people in the right direction. And I think that's what all of us have a purpose in doing when we're out there, for the most part. It's just in some of these areas, it just can be too much. All right, everybody. Thank you so much again for joining with us here, joining the conversation. Jump in and drop in any questions or anything like that. If you have any questions for me or our guests coming up here in just a minute. Like I said, sorry, I've been kind of running just a little bit late today, but again, it's great to have all of you here. We'll be back right here in just a moment to get started with this week's Sunday Garden Roundtable. Hey gardeners, thanks for tuning in to our show today. We'll be right back at it here in just a moment. I just wanted to take a second here to highlight our regular videos and features here on the Urban Gardener channel. Our weekly garden journals, and our incredible featured visits. All right. What is your favorite fall gardening activity? I think mine right now is running around my neighborhood, snagging up all of my neighbors' leaf bags so that I can mulch them up for garden mulch that I'm doing. I've been doing that this week. So I don't know. I think it might be, my neighbors might think it's kind of funny looking out the window and seeing me wander down the street to the other neighbor's house and grab a couple of bags and wander them over to my house, just so I can dump them out in my front yard and run the lawnmower over them. That's kind of, I guess, my big fun activity I've been doing in the fall garden this last week. What have you been up to? Let us know there in the chat as well too. I want to mention that our good friend Sarah over at Sarah's Seed Shop at sarahseedshop.com, who does our trivia on the Saturday show. She's having a nice, fun Thanksgiving, Black Friday kind of sale at her seed shop. And mind you, she already does a sale basically all the time, because her seeds are only about 75 cents a packet, and you get a lot of really great seeds. And she's actually down the price down to 50 cents per packet for some of her select seeds there at her seed shop. And all you got to do is put in the coupon code Thanksgiving24. That's Thanksgiving 24, November 28th through December 2nd at sarahseedshop.com, and help go support Sarah's Seed Shop. She does a really fun trivia for us each and every week. It's great to have her a part of our show. So it's be wonderful for you to go show some support over at Sarah's Seed Shop. Get some of those essential gardening seeds that you need for your garden this next year. And again, like I said, you won't find a better deal anywhere else. That's for sure. So, all right, everybody, it is time for us to get on with our Sunday roundtable. I've been making our guests wait just a little bit longer than I should have. So let's get on with it today. Let's see what we got for our garden roundtable. All right. Let's welcome to the show. We've got Jessica with us here. How's it going, Jessica?
Hello.
Thanks for joining us. And we also got Nicole Smith from Nicole Smith Gardening here. Thank you so much, you two, for joining with us here. Awesome to have you here for what we've been doing now this year. For our Sunday show is get some of our fun guests that we've had some great conversations with on our Saturday show back together again for a fun gardening conversation for our Sunday show. And again, it's really awesome to have you two back. I'll give you each a little minute here to introduce yourselves to everybody, let everybody know about what you've got growing on and all of that. And I guess we'll go ahead and start with you, Nicole, right down there.
Hi, I'm Nicole Smith. I have a YouTube channel, Nicole Smith Gardening, and I garden in Zone 9A near Houston, Texas. So I'm still growing right now. I've still got lots of stuff. I'm going to harvest some watermelons later today. So we've got a long growing season here. But I'm already looking forward to the 2025 season, getting my seeds ordered, getting ready to go. I'm so excited.
I know. It's so exciting. I was kind of mentioning and talking about that just a little bit earlier, that's, just a really fun part of this gardening season is now the opportunities that lay ahead for the next gardening season. And it's kind of this time in fall that we can kind of get and gather all of our thoughts on all of that as we're cleaning up and thinking about how this last season went. Yeah. Right on. And Jessica, how about you?
Hi, I'm Jessica. My channel is From Dream to Seed. I'm on pretty much all the socials. I do basic backyard gardening in Zone 7A with a focus on helping beginner gardeners. I'm also a master gardener, so I do quite a bit in my community with that organization.
Yes, awesome. Yeah, that's a good thing too. We're so fortunate, especially actually this last week last few weeks we've had several folks who've got master gardening certification on the show. So again too, and I was kind of mentioning this in my previous segment and everything as well too, that it's you folks who are out there in our local communities and in finding those kind of local groups and things like that people can get involved in to learn from those who are out there learning from the best in those master gardener programs. I got to do that myself sometime.
Totally worth it. Completely worth it.
Yeah. For sure. Absolutely. Excellent. So again, too, kind of, again, the whole idea of this gardening roundtable conversations for us to all kind of share a fun conversation on how things are, again, for us this week, we're just talking basically about how things have growing for us this year, as we kind of already kind of touched on there. It's fall. We're thinking about a lot of things. So what are some of the things? We'll just start with, how did the gardening season go for each of you this year? I'll kind of start with that there, and we'll start with Nicole, and just kind of let us know about how did things go this year?
Things were still a little bit of a struggle. That gosh darn squash vine borer. I just cannot seem to get some squash. I see all these people with baskets and buckets and dropping squash on their neighbors' porches or whatever. And I think I got one squash. So that was a struggle for me. My watermelons did great. Like I said, I'm about to harvest one. They were late to take off, but finally I've got two really big ones. So I'm excited to weigh those out. That we didn't have the drought that we had the year before, so we actually had more rain this past summer, so things were struggling a little bit less overall. I did better with my tomatoes for once. I did better with peppers. Those started coming on really strong when we started to cool off around September, October. Those are doing really great. I'm still harvesting peppers. I've still got cherry tomatoes out there. Micro dwarfs were a big success for me this year. So overall, it was an okay year. I had some successes. I had some struggles. I think next year, every year I learn more and I get better. So I'm really excited for 2025.
What variety of the micro dwarfs did you grow?
I'm growing a Purple Boy.
Okay.
I'm growing Florida Petite.
So you had a couple of different varieties.
I've probably got 10 different varieties. Aztec Gold, Pinocchio, Orange.
Oh, wow.
Tiny Tim, Tumbling Tom. Quite a lot.
Oh my, I might have to get some seeds of some of those from you for sure. I've been growing the orange hat for the last couple of seasons.
Oh yeah, I did that one too. I actually like that one. It's pretty good.
Yeah, they're really delicious too. Right on. How about you, Jessica? How'd things go this year? How'd your garden do?
I feel like I literally had the exact opposite issues as you, Nicole. So I'm in the Ohio Valley. I'm in southern Indiana. So we get a ton of rain. So I always have squash vine borers. I don't know if you've ever tried this. I saw this from another on another channel, so I can't even take credit, but because I mostly grow zucchini. So you trim all the leaves and you wrap the bases in like that stretchy medical tape. You can get it in like rolls, and it worked like a charm for me. I finally had zucchini, and there is. I do have a video on it on my. I think I posted it. I know for sure it's on my TikTok. And I'm completely blanking on the name of the gardener who I originally saw it from, but it's on that video. I do name the gardener. So that helped a ton, growing them vertically and wrapping with that. That's like that band, you know what I'm talking about? It's like stretchy. Yeah. It comes in a bunch of different colors. Yeah. So cucumber beetles are always a huge issue for me. So I have not been able to successfully grow melons, or some cucumbers do okay, certain varieties. I get, what is it? I'm blanking my mind today. It's a bacterial infection that those cucumber beetles will spread. And so the only cucumbers I was able to get were ones that were parthenocarpic. I could grow them underneath row covers. Some that I grew vertically did okay. Tomatoes did well. I grew, I think, 10 different varieties. I was helping out with the tomato growing festival with the master gardener. So I was growing way more tomatoes than I usually would grow.
Right.
Some new ones this year. So I was actually kind of excited because some I had never grown before. And I'm like, I'm growing these every year from now on. So they were good. But the blight, we had a couple cool rainy weeks at the end of summer, and the blight was just terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, tomatoes were actually probably one of my better things that I had this year. Finally, though, too, because I've had struggles with tomatoes for several seasons prior to this last year because of just of the changing climate here so much. It used to be I could grow all sorts of tomatoes. I would grow 10, 15 different varieties. Some of my first years of doing my videos, I would have like little tomato taste kind of tasting type of videos, and I go through the different ones I grew and all of that. And so I could grow all sorts of stuff. It didn't matter what kind of variety. I would grow all, awesome tomatoes every year. But then somewhere about 5 years ago or so, things just started changing as it started getting hotter here earlier, and just the heat index so much higher that my plants just would drop flowers, drop fruit, would just basically try to crawl into a little dormancy session, really early. And then when, the summers got more extended and longer, so they were having longer periods of having to hold on through the heat. So that affected even what we were able to get in the later season as well too. So I've kind of moved on to a few different more again utilizing advice from other growers that are here more locally, what are some varieties that are really working for you as well, to kind of trading that information and just finding more heat tolerant varieties that can handle the summer heat. And finally this year I had some really good results for tomatoes this year, and so it's been a long time coming, and I was really kind of looking forward to it, and I'm so glad it worked out. We just got to kind of rinse and repeat and see if we can't keep that going for next year as well too. Let's see here. Bowtie Life for the Garden was asking Jessica again, what type of tape was this your original idea?
Not my original idea.
Not your original idea on the stem of the squash. Yeah, you want to let us know again, what is that? I mean, that seems really interesting.
This is so, because on top of this, I used to be a nurse, and I use this stuff all the time because we literally just called it tape. We were like, oh, but it's if you look it up online, it's just called like medical tape, or like it's kind of a meshy. I could probably just look up the name. That'd probably be easier. But it's probably got like 30 different names, but it comes in rolls. Where I got it, it was about $1 a roll, and I used about a roll per plant. So if you're planting a ton of squash, I don't know if it's the most cost-effective option, but for me, I'm only planting 2 or 3 plants. So it was worth it to do that. So I'll find the name and let you know of what I found it. But I think it's just basically just called medical tape. It's stretchy and it's self-adhesive, self-adhesive. And so you can just cut it to however you need. And I would just start at the bottom. And it's on those main stems that they mostly affect. They can get inside, the petioles, the leaf branches, if you want to call them that. So, and those are harder to wrap. So you want to remove all the leaves you can, obviously leaving some at the top. But then the plants looked ridiculous. I could see them from a mile away because I grew them vertically, and I had this blue tape like going everywhere.
Oh yes, but that's great.
It worked. It really did. And at first I thought, well, maybe I just don't have any squash vine borers, or maybe the variety that I planted, because it worked so well. But we were gone for 2 weeks, and I didn't wrap farther up, and they got in. So I think it was pretty effective. So yeah, definitely got to try that for those folks, because again, too, it's just such a common thing. I hear it from people all the time. I don't have vine borer issues. I do have squash bugs, which are just an infestation like you can't imagine when they get going. So those I have a hard time with. But usually, and it was kind of the case this year, is that if I just kind of spend some time each week, just kind of trying to keep up with them in a way, I can kind of keep them back enough to keep the plants healthy enough to continue to grow, to continue producing. I still got, plenty of squash, and, our pumpkins grew pretty well and all of that as well too. You just got to fight back at them. You do.
Sometimes you just got to do the work when it comes down to it.
Adhesive tape. That's what it's called on my phone.
Just adhesive tape.
Medical adhesive tape. Yeah.
There you go. Perfect.
So.
Yeah, I was just thinking pretty much whatever the general adhesive tape you would find in the.
It's not the kind that looks like the tape, section. Like the white. It's like a stretchy, almost kind of mesh. So it's nice because as the plant, I've seen where people do foil, and I have tried that. And in one, it just gets too loose, and 2, it gets so hot. But this is nice because it's breathable and it's stretchy. So as the vine kind of stretches, it can stretch with it. So again, not my original idea. It works well.
Try that.
Yeah.
That's all right. That's all right. We'll give you credit for passing it along anyways.
I saw someone else mention in the chat that they grow loofah instead. And I have done that. I've grown loofah and harvested just the baby loofah when they're only a couple of inches in diameter. And those do taste just like zucchini. And the vine borer doesn't like it at all. Also this year, I grew a Sicilian zucchini, which is more like a gourd. The seed looks like a gourd. So it's in a different species or family or whatever. But they get like 5 or 6 feet long, and they have a beautiful marbling on them. And the squash vine borer don't mess with those either.
Yeah.
Those are good alternatives.
I've tried doing loofah a couple of times. I got to try it again. We had David from Bowtie Life in the Garden. He's in the chat there yesterday on the show, and he shared with us a picture that he planted 5 of these loofah plants, and literally they just took over everything.
Yeah.
They're just everywhere, all over the place. I mean, it looked really cool, the way it just, all these vines were growing everywhere. But yeah, you might only need 1 or 2 of them, and depending on where you're growing and what area you have, if you're growing those. But again, like you said, you get them nice and young, then they're really delicious, actually. Or you can, let some go to grow all season, so you can get harvest some sponges from too as well.
Yeah, I've never grown it.
Never grown loofah?
No, I just haven't wanted to dedicate the space to it. So.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Again, too. Yeah, again, with being vines, they're going to try to go and get all over the place too. So you do want to have a specific space where you intend to let them grow and get all over the place.
Yeah.
Right on. So what was besides that, what were some issues? Did you have any issues this year? Something that didn't really go as planned? I mean, that happens all the time, man. I'm telling you, I get started every single year with the big plan in mind, which I'm starting to develop again, as I was mentioning right now. I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and all of that. And again, there just seems to be things that just don't quite go the way I wanted them to go. And again, it was more or less for me, again, too, is still trying to find these strategies to get through the summer. I think for me and where I'm at is we're trying to adjust where I know, Nicole, you say you're down in Texas, right?
Yeah.
So we're trying to get you adjust to more of those types of summers here versus the summers we're used to. I mean, these more intense, more hotter summers. So I think we're needed to take, that's a good thing. I got more friends gardening in Texas now lately, because I could start really getting some information and try to apply that to my garden and everything as well too, because again, that seems to be my issue this year, is still trying to work through some of those things I need to do with the heat, as it's really starts to drag everything down.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I would recommend for anyone who's in a hot area is make sure you have, if you can, a watering system in place, like some sort of automatic watering system. I have drip going through my beds, and it really helps me out because I work away from home, and I have a 2 to 3 hour commute every day, depending on traffic. And so I'm not there to water. And in our climate, you've got to be watering constantly, or you're going to lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
And mulching. I imagine mulching is just so important. Yeah.
Primary 2 things I'm really adjusting to right now. And again, I was mentioning I'm the guy right now who's going around my neighbors' places and grabbing up the bags from all the leaves that they're collecting and everything, and I'm mulching those down as well too, so that I'll have it throughout the year. But I've been trying to, again, apply mulch as well. But the big one, like you mentioned, Nicole, is making sure you have a good watering system. And for me, I've got multiple different types of growing setups that, sometimes it's not as easy to set up a timed water system for, like, all the containers that I have. So I've moved and converted to a certain type of, like, earth bucket container that can, kind of have a continuously watering type of setup. And then again too, I've got a part of my alleyway which I can't go across because I can't set up water there. The city won't let me do it, so they won't let me do what I want to do. So that's still, so I still got to make sure I'm out there watering consistently and making sure, even for some parts that I can't apply that to. So again, another part of the different challenges that we have is working through that. But again, having a good watering system is key, because you just don't want things to dry out in the summertime. Believe me, you don't want that to happen.
Yeah. So true.
Especially for us container gardeners.
Yeah. I have issues this year with fall gardening is always such a toss-up for me, because I don't know if it's the same for where you guys are, but falls here are so unpredictable. And I feel like the trick with fall gardening is, you have to plant them soon enough to get them mature before, those heavy frosts set in and the daylight hours are so short. But you can't plant them too soon because they're cool season plants and they really can struggle. And it's, I still have a lot of because our falls stay pretty warm until usually about mid-October. A lot of times my summer stuff is still going. So I don't have a lot of space to get stuff in. So, and that's the issue I ran into. Now I will say I still have stuff growing in the garden. This is the longest that's grown and that I can remember. So, I mean, stuff's definitely warming up, but it's the shorter daylight hours and everything just slows to a crawl. So trying to get stuff mature is, and it's every year I seem to, it's either, I wish I'd have planted 2 weeks earlier. Or, I wish I'd have waited 2 weeks. So it's so hard to know when to plant stuff.
Oh yeah, I definitely feel you with that because that is my big struggle for getting anything going, and it's why I always struggle into getting the things that I want growing in the fall garden because of just that specific thing, and that comes back to the kind of dealing with hotter and hotter seasons. Then becomes a question like, okay, well, this would be the time. This is the time they're saying I should start my fall plants. But it's 100 and some degrees out and the forecast looks like it's going to be like that for weeks still. And I'm like, but these are like you said, cool season plants. What do? I got to make sure I'm keeping them cool. I got to make sure that, because you do got to get them started at a certain point in time. Otherwise, like you said, we're going to start running out of daylight hours to really kind of grow them effectively or get them to mature like we need to.
So everything I grow in the fall goes under row cover because nothing that I'm growing in the fall needs to be pollinated. So everything's under row cover. So that does help because it kind of shades a little bit. I can even throw shade cloth over the top if I need to. So that does help. I do start them inside. So I grow them for several weeks inside. So they kind of get that head start inside where the weather's, the temps are cooler. And I think the problem is for me is, people will say, oh, we'll just put frost blankets on. And I do. And it's not so much that, like right now we're definitely getting frosts at night, but the cauliflower and the greens I have, they can handle, it's not really the temperature so much like damaging them. The problem is, you forget that it's light and its temperatures are one of the two main things that affect these plants' ability to do photosynthesis. So when the daylight hours are shorter and the temperatures are cooler, their ability to produce those sugars and things they need to grow just really slows down. So it's not that the cold weather is necessarily damaging them, although it will once it gets too cold. But it's that they just don't mature. They just want to. They're so slow to grow, and that's the problem I'm having now.
Yeah. And again too can happen on the opposite end, just as I was mentioning with tomatoes during the hot season. They just kind of do that same thing. It's just too much happening for them, so they just kind of slow down and revert back and you don't see them growing much, doing anything until the season starts to cool down just a little bit. So there's this happy medium that we need in a sense too. And I know for even being further down south though too, the daylight hours are just maybe a little bit more, right? Or a little bit less, I guess it would be during the winter time, right? But I know you still get snow and it still gets cold, but there's still a lot of things that you can grow just throughout the winter season, right?
Yeah, Nicole? We're 80 degrees today, so we're fine.
Yeah. Right. Okay.
Things. I'm still harvesting green beans, peppers.
Yeah. But even through the coldest part of winter too, though, right? You're still.
We have every now and then, like we had a snowpocalypse like 2 years ago, 3 years ago, where like Houston got snow and we got down to like 8 degrees, and we're like, oh my god, what is this? This is weird. Pipes were bursting all over town, so that was unusual. But usually, we stay like lows in the 40s, highs in the 60s, maybe 70s during the winter. So the daylight does kind of slow things down and things just kind of sit and stare at you until maybe February, and then they start again. But we can keep things alive all 12 months. 12 months.
All 12 months. Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, especially. And then too, so it almost becomes that kind of opposite thing where like again, that summertime is kind of like the slower period of the
It
year.
is.
And then you're really growing throughout the rest of the year, barring again 2 daylight hours.
The only thing growing in the summer really is like okra. Everything else just kind of slows down.
Yeah. Yeah, you got to have those things again too. It's one of the things I tell people all the time is that, you know, you hear like tomatoes, peppers, you know, all these sort of, you know, especially the, you know, some of the summer squash and all of that. They just love warmer heat, warmer temperatures, melons, but in the long run, there's only so much when it really comes down to it, and there can be too much when it comes to even full sun, you know, temperatures and all of that when it comes to any plant. And it can be a challenge to get some of them to grow through some really hot temperatures.
Yeah, our peppers are scorched, like sweet peppers and stuff. They'll actually scorch. We just get so hot here.
Yeah. There's places in the garden I'm starting to plan for next year, maybe even just getting some shade cloth and just do that during some of those really hotter points of the year.
Yeah.
Right on. So what else is going on in the garden too? So like I said, it's fall time. I'm sure there's a lot of garden planning as well. I'm sure that happens no matter where we're at. It just seems to be kind of that time of year for anybody as you're facing winter and thinking about winter is okay, well, next year's coming up. 2025 is here, just right around the corner. So, you know, what are some of those things that are already starting to pop in your mind? Maybe something that you've learned from this last year, or maybe something for the last few years you've been wanting to do, maybe, you know, in your garden space.
Well, I'm going to be starting sooner. I always seem to get my peppers and tomatoes.
Yeah.
I think I'm getting them done early, and I'm not. So I'm actually starting my peppers and tomato seedlings probably next week, early December, because I need to get them out in February. I'm getting them out too late, and I need to have mine out end of February.
Right.
That is starting right now. I've been making my list. I have, I think, 30 varieties of tomatoes chosen for next year. And I'm only doing gifted varieties, stuff that I've got gifted, because I have probably 300 varieties in my little seed box, and it's hard to choose. I don't have the space for 300. I wish I did.
Yeah.
But I had to choose some. And so right now it's the choosing. I've got to choose my peppers. I've done all my seed ordering. I'm going to have to make myself stop. I have one more order coming from Botanical Interest because they had a Black Friday sale, and then I need to cut it off and get my plan going. I started a new garden journal. I am committed to actually filling it out. It's not going to be like my son's baby book that only has 2 pages. And then I'm going to do it this year. I'm going to have a full journal. So that's my plan.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was mentioning at the beginning of the show too, is that this last year for me, I usually do the weekly garden journals from my garden, and kind of gives everybody an idea and throughout the year how things are growing and all of that. And I just fell off this last year because of some, we'll say technical issues, me having to learn a new program and all of that. So I'm finally getting that down. So I'm going to try to do that. And it's my goal, like you said, is to be on top of not a written journal, but I do the video journals, and I'm going to make sure I'm getting on those this year as well too, to keep track of how things are growing.
Yeah.
How about for you, Jessica?
I cannot believe you can plant peppers that early. I'm like,
I know.
I have to wait. I have to wait till Mother's Day weekend is when I can plant those. Yes. But we can grow pretty late into the fall. And we do have some slowdown during the summer. It does get hot here, not Texas hot, but with the humidity, it's upper 90s. And so, it gets hot, but we do have some slowdown, but not where things are just completely, burning to a crisp, as long as things are watered. But, my plan is actually, now I say this every year and then I don't do it, is to scale back just a little bit. I've got 3 kids still at home, 2 are teenagers, and they're just in so much stuff. And I just felt like I kind of ended the season more burnt out than like happy. And I'm a big proponent of soil health, and I'm a big proponent of crop rotation and really feeding your soil. There's a few beds that I take pretty good care of my soil. mulching and adding organic matter and composting. And but there's just a few of my beds that I felt like haven't done as well as they have in the past. So I'm actually going to do some cover cropping and things like this in the summer, in the spring, and just kind of rejuvenate those beds, let them rest a little bit. And so that will kind of force me to scale back just a little, at least for part of the season. Yeah. And really, I've planted a lot this year. I planted things that I haven't grown before, just to say that I can grow them. So when people ask me, I can tell them practical advice and not theoretical advice. But I've just found I wasn't growing them for a reason. Usually it's just stuff I won't eat. So like okra's one, eggplant's one. I know people love these, but I do not. And so I grew them and they took up a lot of space. And then I was just giving them away because I just, so I'm like, I'm gonna save that space for stuff that I know that I'm gonna eat and enjoy, or just not grow it just for the sake of growing it.
Yeah, a little scaling back sometimes a good thing to do when it comes down to it. I was also thinking about it in some way too, as Nicole, you were mentioning about seeds and the seed collections that we all end up with and everything. It was and has been my goal over the last several seasons to not order as many newer things and utilize the ones that I've already got. And now I'm finally, over a couple of seasons of, just utilizing what I have, I'm finally at a point where now I got to start perusing my catalogs and thinking about some new varieties and some stuff, because I've gone through a lot of them, especially peppers. And again, peppers I love and enjoy. I grow whole pepper gardens and everything. And that's kind of one of my goals for this next year, though, too, is to get back my rooftop pepper garden that I used to have many years ago on our carport rooftop. And I had it up there for about 4 years or so. And it goes to show you how much the previous owner ever came by. It took them about 4 years or so to recognize and find out that I was doing this. And then when they finally did, they made me take it down. So I had to take it down a few years back. And now I have a new owner who, lives right next door. He gets to see everything I grow and do, loves it and everything. And he's just like, whatever you want to do, go for it. Do this, do that. And I was like, yeah, I used to have this rooftop pepper garden. He's like, yeah, go for it. So that's my goal this next year, is to get back up there and do some more pepper growing up on the rooftop, and other things too as well too. So we'll put some other stuff up there and all of that. But that seems to be what my hardest thing, though, too, Jessica, is the idea of scaling back. Because I'm always like, every time I'm trying to pull back, I'm always adding something else.
It's so true.
You find that to be the case at all, Nicole, right?
I have no willpower.
Yeah.
I out today, before I came in to change and clean up, I was out creating a brand new garden space with some raised metal beds. I need more.
Right.
It's an addiction. I swear. It is. It's a seed addiction.
Yeah. A part of my new owners let me do whatever I want. When I've for years had this front yard, and I just let it go to weed, do whatever, mow it here and there. I don't pay too much attention to it all because it's just a front yard. And now I've got the ability to start putting some raised beds out there, right out in the front yard and all of that. So I'm like, I've got free will when it comes to all this stuff. So now, again, too, I have no willpower, but I also have pretty crazy free will when it comes to things. Like, you give me some space and I'm going to go wild with it, so.
Nice.
Yeah. So not much scaling back for me when it comes down to that, but it's going to be fun, though, too, because it's going to only increase more of the public facing gardening that we get to do. I have some alleyways we grow in, so people, in fact, a lot of people in my neighborhood got to know me because of that rooftop pepper garden, because everybody could see it from all over the place. So people would come walk through. And so I still have people who walk their dogs. I have one neighbor who walks his cat, believe it or not, through the alleyways just to, come through and check out all the different things growing. Mm-hmm. So it's a good chance, again, to connect with the community as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right on. Let's see here. So what else you guys got growing on there this year? I don't know, I'm putting out the tough questions.
So I've had a goal for the last, this is me scaling back, not scaling back.
Right, exactly.
I've had a goal for the last several years to put in a small home orchard.
Oh, yes.
My issue is, like, I live in a neighborhood, it's fairly new build, the soil is just terrible. So if I want to plant anything in ground, it takes me about a year to get that soil prepped. So right now I do grow berries in ground. And it took me about a year to get that soil ready, and now they do fine. And that's what I tell people. I'm like, if you want to grow fruit trees and fruit in the ground, that soil is the best investment you're going to make. So it's just going to be a huge project for sure. In a big space, which I have the space. It's just, there's so much cardboard in my shed. My husband's like, you've got to get rid of this cardboard. I'm like, no, I need it for my orchard. But that hasn't happened in like 3 years. But that's the plan. I really, really would like to start growing some fruit trees. So is the plan. I have some potted fruit trees, mostly citrus because I have to bring them inside. But I would love to plant some apples and pears and cherries and just some dwarf fruit trees. We'll see if it happens this year or not.
Yeah, I know. I've been wanting to. I have a few, but we grow all of ours in containers. One of the new things we'll get to do in the front, though, is plant an in-ground peach tree. We're going to do that. My favorite fruit tree. And then, but I wanted to increase some more of the container trees that we've got and everything as well too, because it's always a good idea if you got space, especially your own land and all of that, to really dig into those trees as soon as possible, because they're the ones that are going to take the longest to get what you want out of them. And then, again, they'll be around the longest as well too. So it's always good to start with fruit trees too, if you're in a new place and move into a new property or something. But yeah, you got any fruit trees, Nicole?
Yes, I do need more. We have 1.3 acres, so I have the room for it.
Yeah.
We have a nectarine tree, and I don't remember the name of it because it's fairly new, and an apple tree, which apples are a little more difficult. There's only a few that'll really grow here because we don't get the chill hours. And then a couple weekends ago, I went with my bestie Cece to another YouTuber's house who's getting rid of all of her gardening things. And I got a persimmon tree from her, a Fuyu persimmon. So that needs to get planted. And then I got an olive tree, which I'll put in a pot because I will have to move that if we get like a really, really cold snap.
Oh, you'll have to. I just got an olive tree this year. It's in a container though, but I'm gonna have to watch and see what you do with yours, because it was one of those like, in a store, that looks cool.
They're so pretty, right? I love that blue-green foliage. It's gorgeous. And I have a bunch of citrus, and those are also in pots. I just harvested all of my improved Meyer lemons, and I had some Persian limes. Those have been harvested. And then I have a Moro blood orange, and those are starting to color up. But I'm keeping those in pots because just in case, I can't lose them. So I do have to dolly them into my husband's man cave. I don't want him in the house because I don't know what's living in those pots.
Exactly. That was one of my early things I found out and learned about too, in the many parts of that process. But I had a Moro blood orange that was gifted to me many, many years ago. So it was my first endeavor into growing trees, let alone citrus in my area. Mind you, again, we did have colder winters as well too, but just trying to figure out how to get it to survive in the winter time. So the first thing I did the first winter was I brought it inside, set it right there across the way, and let it go. And then next thing you know, all of my plants are dying and having a problem. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? Oh no, it's got to be this citrus tree I brought in from outside with all of its outdoor soil and outdoor problems and brought those indoors. And, so I had to go through that lesson of like, okay, well, you can't really bring it inside like that now. And so now I'm outside trying to cover it up and keep it alive throughout the wintertime with lights and trying to keep it warm throughout the winter time, and it just got beat up over a couple of years. It just didn't survive. So that was so it's been my goal actually to get back in and do some citrus and figure something else out. And I think I think I have a better shot at keeping them alive now.
Yeah.
These years later, but when I was a first early gardener wanting to just jump right into things, and I got gifted this tree, I was like, oh man, this is amazing. I can do this.
Yeah.
All part of the gardening experience though too is we got to kill some things to learn how to grow them.
Yeah, mine have to come inside. It's hard, but it's like a week process to get them ready to come inside. There's a lot of like things that go because most of them fruit about the time that I have to bring them inside.
Yes.
So they have to go under grow lights. So I do and it's hard because I never know when that first frost will be. So I try to wait until last minute, but they get sprayed off several times. And then I do organic gardening, but I use pyrethrin. It's a organic approved spray, but you have to be really careful because now mine are young. They're not blooming yet. But you can't use that on things that are blooming because even though it's organic, it's not safe for bees. So I either have to completely isolate them and put them under like a cover to do the spray, or I will bring them in like a shed or a garage to do it where bees can't get to it. So it's hard because you need the bees to do the pollinating. So I have to kind of time it to where they've pollinated and the fruit has just started to set. Then I can do that pyrethrin spray because the first 2 years I did that same thing. I lost a calamine and orange, and then I had this beautiful plumeria that was just fine setting on its own, but spider mites just all over both of them and just got to them both. So it's hard. You think it'd be easier to do this stuff, but it's not. Gardening's actually really hard sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, it can be really hard on us as well too, in the sense of when these things start to happen and we start to run into these issues that we're like, oh, we just want to keep these things alive. We want to just keep this thing going, but sometimes no matter what we do, no matter what we try, it doesn't seem to work out, and that's just kind of all a part of the whole gardening experience and process. Yeah, especially too, again, with the bringing things indoors. One of the things I do now as well, like even with plants that I'll buy in nurseries and all that, before they end up in the main area of the house, I have another room that I take them into that they just, they start there, so if I did another, like a citrus tree or something like that, maybe the first couple of seasons or something, I'd bring it into that room maybe as well too, with some good lights or something, and make sure that it's not capable of getting and affecting all of the rest of the plants too, because that's a horrible sight when you start seeing things all around like, wait a minute, this problem's happening over here and these are different plants. Why is that going on? And then you start to realize, oh no, I introduced something into this whole system that is wreaking havoc.
I had fungus gnat Armageddon last year.
Oh yeah.
I overwinter my peppers and I put it in fresh potting mix, but even sometimes those fresh potting mix, they'll have fungus gnat eggs in them. So I've learned now to hydrate it carefully with boiling water. I did not do that last year, and I'm not kidding. Like my kid, it was waking my children up.
Oh yeah.
Everywhere. It took weeks to get rid of them. So.
Oh my, yeah. And as well too, for me, if I have a problem with those two doing this whole show and everything, the lights are on everywhere, so they get going all over the place. So here I'm like, as they're in my face while I'm doing everything. But these little I have something right here actually. I have these like crazy everywhere.
Yes.
All over the place.
Yep.
Almost every plant gets one of these in the pot, and as you can see with this one here too, it's got a bunch on it already.
Get full of them.
Yeah. So those work really, really well, because again too, with dealing with most any pests, we're just trying to break the life cycle. And those, if you have those if you have enough plants, mind you, not everybody has plants around their house like I do, but have those in all the different pots everywhere. Then as they start to form or adults come up, they go right to the nearest one, and boom, no more eggs, no more babies, no more, gnats flying around. So it really helps. But again, too, it just seems like every time you buy a new thing of potting soil or another plant or something like that, then the whole cycle starts all over again.
And the new thing now, because I just found this in my garden last year. Have you guys had the Asian jumping worms yet?
I have not seen those.
Yeah, I have them.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's not a whole lot you can do, to be honest. It was ironic. Last year I had just done a training with master gardeners about this worm, and they were like, "Oh, it's only in these certain counties in Indiana." And then I went out to the garden, and I was like, "It's their castings you'll see first." And I thought, for sure, this is what I found the worm. It met all the criteria of what it looked like. Sent it into the extension, and they were like, "Yep, that's what it is." So far, they haven't caused a ton of issues, but I can definitely see how they do. So and I'm hoping we get a cold enough winter. The good news is where I am, they don't do well with really cold winters. So it had to have come in on a product or a plant.
Wow. Yeah. That and other invasive things that get into the system and everything, you see a lot of people talking about the Asian beetles and all these different things that can, start to cause new issues that we're not used to dealing with. I've yet to see this worm though, but I've seen a lot of people, sharing online and showing them. So hopefully I won't have to see it in my area, but like you said, these things are making their way around.
Yeah, I think it's more in the eastern part of the United States, but I'm sure. Yeah,
make sure too, if you do and you suspect or anything like that, that you go and check with your master gardener programs as well too. This is another reasons why we should really be leaning on these organizations and these places when it comes to learning about figuring out the different things going on in our garden and some of these other issues like the jumping worm. Some worms just flop around like crazy. Some of them just have some energy of more than the other ones do sometimes.
I literally just did a video and people, because fishing is such a huge thing here.
Yeah.
And people are like, "Oh, those are red wigglers," and I'm like, "No, not the same." So I did not the same worm. So there are plenty of I don't want to say native, because there's not a whole lot of native worms actually here in the U.S., but beneficial worms that wiggle and jump. But there's certain characteristics that you look at on this worm. It's mainly the clitellum. That's the ring. That's that raised kind of ring on most worms. If you look on an Asian jumping worm, it's a lot closer to the head of the worm. Not really a head, but and it's smooth. It won't have ridges. So you'll look. It's very, very smooth, and it's often pale. And it's really their castings that. So if you look in the top of the soil, it'll look like dried coffee grounds.
Oh, wow.
And so that's their castings. And these castings get really hard and kind of crusty. So it makes it hard sometimes for little seedlings to push up through. And also these castings are very, very poor in nutrients, very low in nutrients. The worms themselves really strip the soil. So it's, So,
wow.
Yeah. So they go straight in the bird feeder or a bucket of water, with a lid.
And again, too, something that lives and populates beneath the soil and all that, something we can't really kind of control in that sort of manner once it gets into the system and everything. So in the long run, we're just gonna have to see how the long-term effects and how we can manage those sort of things as it comes and goes. But again, another part of the challenges and fun of gardening. There's just lots of great things to figure out. Once you've got to figure it out how to grow the plants, you got to figure out all the things that are attacking them or causing issues and how to manage all of that sort of stuff. And then as well too, to be able to do it in an organic manner as well too. You mentioned that a couple of times, Jessica, is that that's really what we want to be doing. Our big goal in gardening is to do it as natural as possible, right?
Agreed.
Agree. Yeah. And that's going to mean different things to different people. But I think there's this kind of stigma along with organic gardening that you can't do this or you can do this. And really it's kind of up to the individual gardener to decide what's best for them. But I think the main thing with organic gardening is it's not just about not spraying things that you're going to eat. It's also about building up your soil and doing things that are better for the environment and better for beneficial wildlife and pollinators and all those things. So it's bigger. It's not, it's bigger than just what we're putting in our mouths. This affects the whole environment. So.
Yeah. And again, too, that's kind of what we're, in some way, what our goal really is as gardeners and growing plants and all of that is to have a better connection with nature and all of that in the long run, and all of its form, not just again to the food and what we're eating, but the process to which in growing that food. Again, mentioning soil, everything really starts right there at the soil level, when it comes to things. So nurturing and basically growing good soil in a way, we're trying to grow microorganisms and fungi and these nematodes and all these different cool things going on in the soil, so that we have some really great soil health and life in that soil to make sure we have great plants and everything as well too. So there's a lot of aspects to really connecting with the natural process of things in gardening that I think really kind of help us connect with nature just a little bit better.
Yeah.
What do you think of that, Nicole?
All true. All of that.
All true.
Yeah. I subscribe to all of that. That is one thing as part of my, ongoing efforts is to keep improving my soil. I have half of my raised beds right now in the potager resting. Like I put down cardboard and I covered it just the thickest I could with mulch. It's just covered in mulch and it's just going to stay that way till next year. I'm just letting it rest. When I weed my, when I take out old vegetables that aren't producing anymore, I cut them off at soil level. Like I don't rip them out. I let those roots decompose in the soil. I'm adding compost. Right now I'm composting some quail manure with some leaves. We have quail this year. So all the eggshells from the quail, all the manure, all of that is getting composted and added to the soil. So next year's my year. It's my year. I'm sure.
That's awesome. And I love that too. And we were kind of touching on that a little bit yesterday as well. Is for me as well, trying to create this kind of sustainable cycle of things that I'm trying to do just right locally on where I grow. Make sure that, for one, mentioning worms again, vermicomposting, growing my own worms, doing that sort of thing has been a big, huge game changer for me over the last year or two. I'm now really only feeding my gardens from compost that I'm composting down from materials right here in my space, and making worm teas. Worm gardening teas to feed my plants throughout the gardening season, and that'll only grow as we move into, getting some chickens and different things like that over the next year or so too, as we'll add that sort of stuff to our composting regime and everything. But, that's another real big part of also growing an organic garden and having a good organic space is trying to utilize the things that we have in our spaces so that we can, again, continue that soil food web cycle right there within our own spaces, kind of regenerative, sustainable type of thing. Or these are the words we hear a lot out there, and it's good to be able to find that even in our own smaller. And mind you, I'm in a nice city space. I don't got much space at all too, and I can still find methods and ways to continue that process, and then in the long run improve our soil.
Yeah.
Right on. I got an agreement. That's awesome. Excellent. Right on. So again, too, let's talk a little bit here before we finish up here in our conversation today. Just a little bit more about what you guys have going on. We're all out here, and I was kind of doing a little rant just a little bit earlier about getting in these gardening groups and learning information and all of that. But one of the parts of that and points of this show ultimately is all of folks like yourself who are out there sharing your gardening experiences with everybody to help them learn more and to find solutions to issues. I mean, we already got a great solution to some vine borers that we might all be trying here this next season and everything too. So, that's a great part of having these sort of conversations, is to kind of pull some of this sort of stuff out to help everybody else out there in growing. So what are some of those, and again, I'll throw this at each of you too. We'll start with you, Jessica, but what are some of those goals that you have in mind in your purpose for sharing and creating, videos and reels and social media and all of that?
It's funny. I was listening to your segment on that. Your kind of rant, although I wouldn't call it a rant. You were speaking the utmost truth. I never knew how many things could make people mad in gardening, silly things, but I think being a master gardener, so much, what I share is research based. That's what we share is research-based gardening. And most of that spills over into my channels. I do share some things that may or may not work, but what I tell people is, every garden is going to be unique. There's very few hard, fast rules in gardening.
Yeah.
But just because something may have worked in your garden, it doesn't mean it's going to work across the board for everyone, because there's so many factors that went into how that worked. Like, I'll use companion planting as a big one. Now I'm completely for companion planting for certain things, but there's just not a lot of research about growing this vegetable next to this one and both will do better. That's the companion planting I'm talking about.
Right.
It doesn't mean it doesn't work, and it doesn't mean it doesn't work for some people. It just means that there's not a lot of research to say it's going to work for most people, because that research is going to account for all those variables, the climate, the variety you're growing, your soil, all those things. Yeah. So what I try to share on my channel is, number one, I like to give people options, because gardening is not one size fits all. So I try very hard to give people research-based options. And I just try to a lot of these gardening myths, I try very hard to dispel. You're not going to change. My favorite is the putting rocks at the bottom of your pots. Like, I'm never going to change people's minds on this.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Or using pine needles as mulch, which I do constantly, like just kind of these myths that have been around for so long. And gardening is nostalgic. People want to do it the way grandpa taught them or grandma taught them, or, and I say, your garden, your rules. But I mostly just try to give people options, because what works for me may not work for you, and have them be research based, so that I can feel assured that when I'm sharing those things, I know that this advice has been tested across multiple variables. And I know that there's written, documented proof out there that this will work for some people for sure. And then I do share things. So again, it's not that these things may not be working for some people in some ways. And then again, what does working actually mean? It's just that I want to make sure that it's what I'm sharing isn't going to work for just one or two people. It's going to work for most people.
Yeah, exactly. Right on. I completely agree with that. And again, and kind of going along with what I was saying is that, some of these, there's programs in the Master Gardeners programs and different things like that I find are just really that's where you want to go if you want to find out really some just good basic information, or even more complex stuff. There's always some people out there, in your local area who's got some really good information for you. And that's where you should really go and look for specific stuff. So how about for you, Nicole? How about you and your channel and all that? I love following along with you and what you got growing on.
Thank you. My goal moving forward is I want a little bit more consistency in my posting. My posting's been a little bit erratic this year, but I want
I know how you feel.
to post a little more consistency. Starting December 2nd, I'm starting a new job and I'll be remote. So I'm so looking forward to not being, commuting all day, every day, and I can devote a little bit more to the garden. I'll have a little more freedom with this role. So I want to make my videos, and even on Instagram and Facebook, a little more chronological. I want to do more succession sowing. I want to follow the garden next year, almost like a diary. I want to, right now, I'm all over the place. I'm doing random different things, and honestly, when I go out there to film, I don't know what I'm going to be doing. I don't have a plan. I'm just going out there and filming. But I really want to get back to when I first built the potager, I would have, weekly garden tours where I would let's look at everything that we have going. And I kind of got away from that. So I want to do more from start to finish, from the seed to the harvest. I want to keep those videos very chronological, very consistent. And it helps me out as well. It helps me see, where my successes and failures were. And I want to discuss more on my videos what I learned. I don't really talk about what I learned from growing something or how I want to improve something. So I just want to get my videos, tighten them up a little bit, make them a little more consistent and make them a little more informative going forward. Fingers crossed.
I know, I'm right there with you too. And again, on that same sort of thing, for me, again, it's always kind of cool to point out some specific information or to do some sort of like maybe a lesson maybe that you've learned in the garden and all that when it comes to the videos. But really, ultimately, what I've always found the most helpful from all the other creators out there that I follow is just the experience. Them sharing their gardening experience and, whether it's things that work for them or didn't work for them or just the overall experience within the garden space that I usually get the most from when I'm following other people too. And that's something I try to be as consistent on as possible as I can. I haven't been as good over the last couple of seasons. So it is, like I mentioned before, and like you're saying too, is my goal as well too, for everybody else who follows along with our channel and everything too, is to get back and be more consistent on that same kind of level though too, where, I usually try to do something weekly, something that's in the garden space, something that can be somewhat informative, but yet also, just kind of, taking you along with what my gardening season is like throughout the year, versus, just individual, specific things, which I have the hardest time with planning because, as you kind of mentioned, Nicole, I kind of get out there and I just want to grab the camera and just kind of like, what's hitting me? What am I feeling right now? And then I'll start filming and go from there versus, I got advice and I've get, from different people. I've interviewed a lot of other YouTube gardeners and all that as well too, where they'll literally specifically write scripts. They'll come up with the whole idea and plan and all of that. I don't know how maybe you, Jessica, if you're that type of person or not as well. But for me, I have the hardest time, and I've done this. I've actually tried this. Okay, well, we're gonna write this. This is what I'm gonna say, all that sort of stuff. And then I find those end up being like my worst videos because I'm just trying too hard, I think, is when it comes down to it.
I definitely plan my videos. Long format YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Or ironically, what I started with. That's how this whole thing got started. But I've kind of switched more into short-term videos because for me, because kids' activities and things, it's easier for me to go out and just do something short. But I do like those longer term ones and the fact that they're very informative. Like if you want a complete guide to growing something, it's those long-term videos that are really helpful. If you can't tell, I will just ramble. So I have to have something written down or like bullet points to keep me on track. Cause I'm definitely like squirrel out in the garden, like everything. Yeah. So I have found that time wise, it's easier for me to have something written down so that I stay on track.
Right. Yeah. And again, too, it can be somewhat helpful on that level. I just find that I'm trying too hard when I'm trying to follow something that I've set up for myself. And there are certain things, though, and I think that it's almost kind of required if that's what I'm trying to do as far as a video. You really want to have certain things kind of planned out, have the information that you want to convey specifically so you're not forgetting certain points and stuff like that. So it is good to have something somewhat to keep you on some sort of track, but I always find I'm doing better with a little more free form in my videos and everything as well too. Right on. Excellent. Anything else that you guys got going on? Anything else you want to mention before we get moving on here today?
I am working on herbs. That is one thing. I want to have my own home apothecary. So I'm focusing on herbs. I've bought tons of little jars and little tincture things with the droppers. So that's something stay tuned for in 2025. Lots more herbs.
Nice.
Excellent.
I get a lot of requests for like cooking videos, and
Oh,
I
yeah.
just am always like,
Mhm.
you would be so sorely disappointed because
I'm
I'm
the
the
same
world
way.
late. Like how it comes out of the garden is pretty much how I eat it because
Yeah.
but I had a person comment and say, but that's what I want. I don't want, I want like just very easy, show me what you do, even
Yeah.
if it's just simple because, I think as gardeners, sometimes we just, we take for granted sometimes that we even know how to put a seed in the ground. So many people
Yeah.
don't even know how to do that. And I would say it's the same for like cooking. I think we take for granted if you've been cooking and caring for yourself for a while, that you even know how to roast vegetables or you even know how to do those things. I sure didn't at one point. So I'm going to try. They're definitely my least favorite videos to film, but
I
I
definitely
would like
agree with you.
to show people what I actually do with all these harvests.
Yeah. And I get that question a lot too from people. Same similar response. I'm like, you don't want to see me in a kitchen. It's that's not that's not going to help anybody, I don't think, really, when it comes down to it. But there are people who do have some great knowledge, and I think maybe a bit more of that too is kind of something that would be fun. So you don't have and more involved in the gardening space. People are already doing gardening videos, so people are kind of finding that as they're learning about gardening versus having to go specifically to a cooking channel or to a cooking uh, videos and those sort of things as well too. So you can learn from gardeners who are growing in their own gardens what they're doing with those things.
Mhm.
Yeah. So if you know how to cook or you got some good recipes and things like that that you can do from things right out of your own garden, then get out there and make some videos. There's a lot of people out there who'd find that completely helpful. I know for sure, because I'm sure just like you, I get that asked of me all the time.
Yeah, I'm like, I can show you how to make a salad because that's mainly what I do with all these.
And I'm the same way too. I consider myself more of a grazer too.
Yeah.
Like I eat a lot of stuff just mostly fresh, or
Mhm.
again too, salads, tons of salads. We're in salad season right now, so simple things. I can manage some simple stuff, but we ain't getting much further than that. You a pretty good cook, Nicole?
Well, I am actually. I
There
am.
we go.
I
Awesome.
don't
Love
think
it.
it comes across on my videos. I've done very few. I've done cooking the loofah, and I've
Yeah.
done the roselle hibiscus jam, but
Yeah.
and I think a shepherd's pie. But I'm not as comfortable filming those things, so those videos tend to be awkward because I don't,
Don't you
it
hate
tastes
it?
great,
I
but
think that's what it is. I think that's what people avoid a lot, though, is it's not as comfortable. I mean, we're comfortable in a garden, we're comfortable in that space and all that, but then in the kitchen is like, yeah.
And I don't want to clean my kitchen. That requires me to clean my kitchen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a
People
mess.
gonna judge my stove? Like, because my burners aren't clean? Are you gonna?
Yeah,
I've got
yeah,
3
comments?
kids. I mean, my house is a disaster.
exactly. And again, though, too, and I'm sure, and I'm absolutely sure of this, because everybody loves YouTube for that genuine factor that people bring to the stuff that they create and make. So in the long run, people would love to see someone who has a kitchen just like theirs, showing them how to do things instead of it all cleaned and spotless and all of that. But then again, this is our spaces. We don't necessarily want to share those spaces with everybody else in the condition that they are normally, right? Right on. Yeah. So yeah, again too, maybe some more cooking videos, maybe some basic stuff. I kind of agree with you a little bit there too. That is something that I try to ask people about a lot too, is to give me suggestions. Let me know what you want to see. What would be what would be helpful videos or things like that I could do in the future for you as content and all of that. And if the feedback is, hey, I want to see some things about how you cook something up or how you take care of some different things that you're getting out of your garden space, then maybe it's worth the venture of cleaning up the kitchen every now and then and showing some videos. So that'll be really good. Right on, you guys. Well, things are moving right along. I can't believe we've already been on here over an hour now too, so it's really great. awesome for you guys to take your time today, this Saturday, to join with me and have this fun little conversation here. Been really enjoying this again too. I've got to talk to each of you individually in past shows and all of that as well, but to be able to bring people together so that we can all kind of have fun and have a conversation is even better. And I love doing that here on our Sunday edition, and it's so great that you guys took your time today to join with us all here today and share your garden experience this year with us.
Thank you.
Yeah,
This
thank
was a
you.
lot less nerve-wracking than the first time.
Was it really nerve-wracking when you get?
I was so nervous. This
Yeah.
has been much better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've had a lot less wine.
Oh, okay, perfect. Yeah. How about for you, Jessica? You've been on some live streams before, right?
I have, I actually do online English tutoring. So this is actually
perfect.
this is why all this is behind me. So I'm used
perfect.
to doing some things online. So
Yeah.
But yeah, I still get nervous for sure.
Yeah. I still get nervous too, believe me. I've been doing, dozens and dozens of these shows now over the last couple of years, but every time before we get started and I click the live button that sends me out there live to the world, I'm still like, oh my, all right, okay, give me 10 more seconds. I'll be ready in 10 more seconds. But no, it's really fun and it's great. And again, these conversations can be really helpful. Obviously we've brought up some fun, different things there too. I think a lot of people are going to be trying that trick with the vine borers this next year.
Hopefully it works.
So that's what's fun about having these conversations. And again, too, hope to have you two back again as we move into 2025. I'm just getting started on the 25 calendar, so I'm sure you'll probably hear from me again soon and have you back on and have some more fun conversations here on our show. It's been really great to have you here.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. And again, let's see here. We'll be right back with everybody in just a minute. Let's Get Growing is sponsored by IV Organic.
Hi, my name is Charles Malky, biologist and plant expert with IV Organics, where we grow cool plants and author Saving the World with the Home Garden. IV Organic 3-in-1 Plant Guard has 7 natural oils that protect your plants, not just from the summer heat as well as winter cold, but also protects your plants from damaging insects and rodents. The oils in the product include castor, cinnamon, clove, garlic, peppermint, rosemary, and spearmint. These oils are natural insect and rodent repellent oils, which are encapsulated by the base powder, offering your plants months of protection at a time. 1 application per year will suffice for protection against damaging summer sunburn and winter sun scald, but if the target is pests, application as much as 2 to 3 times a year may be necessary.
Oh, yeah, got to make sure I get that back. I got to remember that after the roundtables. Change the screen there, everybody. All right. Again, too, what a great fun conversation there with Nicole and Jessica. Again, I'm just really enjoying these gardening roundtables that we get to have here on the Sunday edition of the show. We're going to be looking forward to doing more of those. This next week, I'm working on another one. We're going to have, let's see, hopefully Katrina from Sow and Tear maybe, and Ryan from Heavenly Hills Homestead. We'll have them back on the show for a discussion this next Sunday as well, too. So again, everybody, be sure to join with us here for the Sunday edition of the show, as well as our Saturday edition of the show. We are here both Saturday and Sunday, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, 2 p.m. Eastern. And again, with all these great conversations, all these really awesome guests that we have, this next Saturday, we are going to have on the show Marcella Delalana from Learn to Grow channel on YouTube, Learn to Grow around on social media as well. She's someone that I've been following for many years, well before I ever got started with my own gardening channel. So it'll be great to have her on the show. She was on my channel a few years back before we even started doing the show. So hopefully we'll have her back on here this next Saturday and have a really fun conversation with her, as well as, like I mentioned before too, we do have our Sunday edition gardening book club that we're doing, and had a great discussion about all of our previous books last week on the Sunday edition. And then coming up on December 15th, the third Sunday of December, we will have for our book club Diane Meisler, her book Grow Your Soil. We touched on some soil care a little bit earlier in our conversation today. We'll get and dig into a lot more about the soil food web and all of that with Diane Meisler and her book Grow Your Soil for one of your best gardens ever. Yes, definitely. It really all starts with the soil. I'm literally looking forward to that with my good friend Mark Roche Colbert co-hosting with us this next month. And also, I mentioned too earlier that we will be back second Sunday of the month too with our good friend Master Gardener Scott Wilson from the Gardener Scott channel. Will be back to join with us on the second Sunday of each month. Again, starting back up December and going into 2025. So that's always been really fun, really great. Again, too, as I was mentioning in my rant earlier about how and what we're doing and getting gardening information, especially newer gardeners. If you do have any questions or anything like that, definitely, like I said, get involved with and look into your local Master Gardener programs. It's a good place to get some great information, and or you can tune in with us every second Sunday of the month with Master Gardener, Gardener Scott, and he'll answer all of your gardening questions with us here on the Let's Get Growing show. All sorts of great things growing on here on the show. And again, too, I'll remind everybody as well, too, Sarah from Sarah's Seed Shop at sarahseedshop.com is having a sale, Black Friday, Thanksgiving sale coming up on this week, November 28th through December 2nd. She'll have select seeds at 50 cents per packet. You can use the coupon code Thanksgiving24 at sarahseedshop.com. She already has a great deal at 75 cents, but go there, get some of these essential seeds for your garden, for your 2025 growing space, and make sure that you're supporting a great entrepreneur like Sarah. And definitely join with us on our Saturday show as well too, where you can see Sarah do Sarah's trivia segment on each of our breaks on the Saturday show too. So again, thank you everybody for being here today. If you are here joining with us and you haven't yet already, click that like button, hit the thumbs up, and subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. Hit the bell notifications to be notified of all of our upcoming live streams and videos, as I've been mentioning too the last couple of days. I'm going to get back into it. We're going to start getting some videos going as we get moving towards 2025 again. Get back to our weekly garden journals and all of that. So you want to subscribe. You want to have that bell notification so you can be notified of all of those, and definitely share with all of your garden friends out there. And that's what you can do in your garden groups. You can share and let them know about Let's Get Growing show. Let them know about all of the great, awesome guests like Jessica and Nicole that we get to have here on the show. All these really fun gardening conversations and everything here on the Let's Get Growing show. And also to follow the links that we have down in the description to our guests. As I mentioned at the beginning of the show, definitely go and check out what they've got growing on their channels, their social media. Go find a video, go find a post or something like that they put out recently, and go let them know that you saw them here on the Let's Get Growing show, and pass and share the love here as we're building our gardening community here, right here on the Urban Gardener channel. And again, everybody, thank you all so much for being here with me today. It's so wonderful to catch up with every one of you and see you all here. And again, thank you to Nicole Smith and to Jessica too for joining us here on the conversation as well too. It was great to have you here. It's great to see all of you. And oh yeah, and as Jersey Girl says too, can't forget it's also Thanksgiving coming up this week. So happy Thanksgiving to all of you as well too out there, everyone. I hope that you have a great time with all of your family, and you get to have some great conversations about your gardening year with all of your family out there as well too. So I hope all of you have a great week, and we'll see you again here coming up this next Saturday. Remember, we're here every Saturday and Sunday. So I'll see you then next Saturday.